Hey there. In today's episode of A Black Conservative's Take, I want to talk about celebrity outrage, open borders, and the cost of ignorance. Now, we all know that every year award shows remind us that celebrities don't just want trophies, they want moral authority. And the 2026 Grammy Awards was no different. We see several celebrities proudly wearing the Ice Out pin, and a few even used their speeches to lecture the American public and, by extension, the world about immigration, borders, and enforcement. And predictably, a lot of conservative commentators went off online. But instead of yelling, I do want to slow this down because what we're saying isn't compassion. Far from it. It's one-sided, conceited, ill-informed, and frankly dangerous outrage. It's coming from people who will never deal with the consequences of the policies that they are promoting. For those who might not know, ICE is the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement. It is specifically responsible for enforcing immigration laws within the U.S. as well as focusing on border security and removing foreign nationals who violate U.S. immigration laws. Now, let me be very clear about something, okay, before someone twists this. Opposing illegal immigration is not the same thing as opposing immigrants. I'm going to repeat that one more time because it's very important that we distinguish between legal and illegal immigration. Now, opposing illegal immigration is not the same as opposing immigrants. My parents, well, better still, my mom, she is an immigrant. Now she's an Italian citizen, but she was an immigrant and I was an immigrant. I guess I'm what you would call a product of legal immigration. So immigration is not the problem, all right? Lawlessness is. And pretending that borders don't matter because it makes you feel morally superior is not kindness. Don't get it twisted, okay? That is plain irresponsibility. Now, here's what always gets ignored. Celebrities, unlike the rest of us, they live behind gates. You've heard the phrase before, gated communities. Yes. Our celebrities, they have private securities. They don't rely on overcrowded public schools. They don't even live in neighborhoods where policy failures show up first. All right. So when they wear an Ice Out pin, they're not volunteering for chaos. They're outsourcing it. It's easy to advocate for no enforcement when enforcement was never protecting you in the first place. That's not bravery. That's privilege speaking. Okay, it's kind of like you never know what someone who has to take 2 buses or 3 buses or take 2 hours to get to work. You never know what they have to go through. Like you don't know what it's like when you have your own car. You don't know what it's like standing under the sun waiting for the bus, or when it's like you don't understand because you've never had to do it. The conversation really isn't that complicated because a sovereign country, all right, by definition, controls who enters, who stays, and under what conditions. That's not fascism. That's not racism. Heck, that's not even discrimination. That's the baseline requirement for a functioning nation. If borders are immoral, then every country on earth is immoral. Can we all agree? Including the one celebrities vacation in, that strictly enforce their borders without apology. When I went to Portugal, not quite long ago, I had to show my passport before I was able to enter the country. Okay, I did not feel discriminated against or singled out. I knew the laws of that country before I booked my tickets and then went there. That's just how it works in a country that's sovereign. So you cannot have laws without enforcement because that's just suggestions, okay? Here's where the conversation keeps getting intentionally blurred. And I am just so tired, of hearing even on television, the mainstream media, when they talk about illegal immigration, they never make that distinction. They put that under the umbrella of immigration, as so to emphasize that a party or a particular, a political party is against immigration. That is false. It's a disservice to people who rely on these media platforms to get their information. It is just wrong, okay? because illegal immigration is not a moral identity. It is a legal status. Saying that illegal immigration creates strain on housing, on healthcare, schools, social services is not hate. It's reality. Okay. Saying that sanctuary policies can limit, cooperation within law enforcement is not fear mongering. It is documented. And saying that deportation is about jurisdiction, not human worth, should not be controversial. Because think about this for a second. Compassion without structure is not compassion. That's chaos. Because we saw what happened back in 2021 during the era of defund the police. Or was that back in 2022? It seems like so long ago, but it wasn't that long ago. We saw what happened. We saw the rioting. We saw the violence in the streets of many major cities in America. And we cannot forget that. The twisted reality is that these celebrities that go on red carpets and they make these comments and say these things in this false outrage and false humility, they're not in those streets. Now let's talk about the part that celebrities never mention or deliberately forget to mention, which is no group commits all crimes, right? However, no group commits no crime. But when violent crimes are committed by individuals who should never have been in the country in the first place, we can all agree that those deaths are preventable. One preventable death is already too many. This is not about demonizing millions of people. It's about holding a government accountable for failing its most basic responsibility, which is protecting its citizens and by extension, its legal residents. And notice this, we don't see pins for these people, the victims, right? Of crimes committed by illegal immigrants. Because the truth is, victims don't trend, ideologies do. That's why these celebrities don't talk about the victims or the victims that don't suit their narrative. As a Black conservative, I am especially tired of being told that enforcing laws is somehow anti-Black, when I know disorder hurts Black communities first and worst, right? When schools are overcrowded, it's Black kids in those classrooms, right? When wages are suppressed, it's Black workers competing at the bottom. When crimes rise, it's Black neighborhoods that pay the price. So calling for enforcement is not cruelty. It is a responsibility. And I refuse to let wealthy celebrities redefine compassion as permanent disorder. It is absolutely despicable. So here's my question for the celebrities wearing those pins. If you want to abolish ICE, what replaces it? If you want to defund the police, who's going to protect those crime-infested neighborhoods? If you want open borders, who pays the cost? And if you can't answer those questions, then what you're wearing isn't justice. It's costume activism. Real compassion requires truth. Real justice requires order. And real leadership doesn't happen on a red carpet. Stop trying to lecture the rest of us, telling us how we're supposed to vote or who we're supposed to vote for or the causes we're supposed to support. And if we dare think differently, you label us as racists. Yeah, I'm not here for that. Alrighty, guys, I will see you all in the next episode. I hope you learned something interesting. Let me know what you think. All right, I'll see you all in the next one. Have a good day now. Bye.